guys, welcome back to the channel. I have here with me the legend, the GOAT, Rich Gaspari. I'm super honored to have him on the channel, and we went over some products, trained back together, and today we're just going to be talking about mindset because I'm 10 days out from the USA's, and I want to know basically how Rich was able to, get to where he is, because that's where I want to be.
I really believed in a positive outlook in being a bodybuilder. I was told that I would never be a top pro, let alone winning the nationals, turning pro, being a top pro. It was all the mindset. I do believe in positive affirmation. If you feel, believe in what you're going to do, you got 10 days out from the show, every day you have to say to yourself, I'm winning that show. No matter what, I'm going into that show with the winning attitude. And that positive affirmation really works. I believe in that. When you turn pro, there was only 4 pros in the world when I turned pro. And what happened is you had to win the nationals.
Yep.
And then you went from the nationals, you went to the Mr. Universe, which was the world championships. It was funny because I was living in California at the time, and I told my parents, get 2 tickets, get your trip to the nationals and get your trip to the universe, because I'm going to win the nationals. And I am going to be Mr. Universe. And they're like, how do you know you're going to win? Because it's going to happen. I'm going to win. Don't worry about it. Just get the tickets.
Yeah.
And I ended up winning that. I won the nationals.
Yes.
2 weeks later, I got my pro card winning the Mr. Universe. But I was so sure, Emily, that I was going to win. I just felt it. I tasted it. And if you have that attitude, of course you got to do the work. You got to sit there and you got to train. You got to do the diet. But if you have that attitude going into that show with that positive affirmation, it's been proven positive affirmation works.
Absolutely. It's all because it changes your brain chemistry and how you act as a pro. Like, if you believe that you can be a pro and be a champion, you're going to act like a champion, because you can't say that you're going to be a champion and then not like act.
And you're not going into a show to get second place.
No.
You're going to win. And you know what? The day of the show is the day of the show. There may be somebody there greater, but you can't worry about that. You worry about Emily being the best that she can be and the best package that you can offer on that stage, so that when they look at you, you are shining as a champion.
Absolutely. It's all about that energy that you carry too. I mean, even when I see some girls go out, because I'm also a coach and I'm a posing coach as well. You see some of these athletes that go on there with great physiques, but just that self-belief, if they don't believe in themselves and their face, it changes their whole presentation. So really just believing yourself along, during your prep every day, every week, leading all the way up to the show, goes so far.
I was told that I would never be a champion, let alone I would never be a bodybuilder. I would never be a champion. I never would, but I became a winner when I got my pro card. They said I wouldn't go far as a pro. I got 3 second places in the Olympia, top 5 in the Olympia for 7 years straight. I won the Arnold Classic. If it wasn't for an injury, I would have still been competing, but I unfortunately had an injury. But I showed that some of the best, legends in the sport I was able to beat.
Yes.
And these were like my heroes when I competed in the show, because I believed in myself. When I went on stage, it wasn't like, oh, I don't belong here. I belong here, and that's the way you have to have that attitude. And if you have that attitude, that positive mindset, and of course do the work, do the planning. I mean, you have to do everything right.
Yeah.
You will be a winner no matter what.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that people were saying that you weren't going to go far, because I'm Chinese, as you guys already know, full Chinese. And a lot of the time our stereotypes is that Asians can't grow glutes. And lo and behold, here I am. I won the California State Championships, and I am a wellness competitor going into a national show to potentially turn pro. And I have glutes.
You will turn pro.
I will turn pro. And growing glutes doesn't just happen from sitting on my ass. It comes from
years.
hard, effective training. Of course, supplemented, with the right nutrition. But it's when people tell you that, you can't do something or whatever, whether it's your genetics or where you come from, you can't let that stop you. And you know what? If you do, shame on you, because you're already squelching your potential. But, our potential is limited by us.
It's all limited by, it's all limited by your mindset. And as you said before, there's probably some great genetically gifted people that can really be great, but they don't have the mindset.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time. I've seen
Yeah.
great bodybuilders that were like unbelievable genetics, and they weren't doing anything. Same thing in your category.
Yeah.
Women that are meant to be, wellness, but they're not really winning. And you probably beat a lot of girls that were, that were really good, but you were able to do it because you went prepared for
Yeah.
that show, and you believed in yourself and did the work.
Definitely, because I train with quite a few girls, a lot of wellness competitors, and I will say that like a lot of girls kind of like shut me out because I'm not the typical wellness girl. Like for one, I'm not Latina, I'm not Brazilian or anything. I have smaller hips or whatever, but I just kept my nose to the grindstone and just keep grinding, keep training, keep eating, and trust my coach because ultimately I believe that I can do it.
And that's what you've been able to do. So
Yeah.
bodybuilding is a lot of it is mindset.
Yeah.
I've been able to take the mindset and apply it to my business.
Yes.
And I've been in business for over 2 decades.
Yeah.
And I continue to improve. I've been through so many I've been through adversity.
Yeah.
Personal things that have happened in my life that have really for most people that set them back and they would never come back.
Yeah.
And I believe in never giving up. I always say to people is like, as long as you don't quit, you're not a loser. A loser is somebody that totally quits.
1,000%.
But if you continue, a winner is someone who has lost and who has failed, but then continually gets up
Yeah.
and just keeps moving forward. And it's like Rocky. Saying about you can it's not about how many punches you can give, but how many punches
Yeah.
you can take and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's what life's about. Whether you're in this bodybuilding world, or wellness bodybuilding, or you're using it just in life in general,
Yep.
it's such an important thing to have that attitude of never giving up.
Absolutely.
If you don't give up, I guarantee you, anybody out there, if you're doing anything in life, if you keep trying, you will be successful in life.
Yes. Now, when you turned pro, did you imagine that you would ever have like this big brand to what it is today?
I never, no, when I turned pro, at that point in my life, it was about turning pro and being a bodybuilder. And
Yeah.
I wanted to be the bodybuilder that was in all the magazines, and I wanted to be the guy competing in the Olympia, competing against some of the best bodybuilders and beating all those guys.
Yeah.
The brand came about later on, and it was when I met Joe Weider. When I met Joe Weider, I was really amazed because, I was the athlete. I wanted to be the best bodybuilder in the world. But then when I met Joe Weider, who's the guy, if you guys don't know who Joe Weider is, the guy who started bodybuilding.
Where is?
And he had the bodybuilding magazines, and he had the brand. He was the first guy to make products. Anyways, I flew out to California. He had me out there to live in, the lifestyle of a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
But then when I saw how he lived, I said, wow, look at this guy. He's got this beautiful house. He's got servants serving him food, and I said, man, I want to be like him. I want to have that. I want to have what he has. And I would, it was funny because I would become good friends, and he saw that potential in me, because Joe saw that I wasn't just an athlete. He saw more in me because the one thing that they offered back then is they said, we can give you, monthly allowance of money, a contract with money, or I can give you ads in the magazine. I took the ads in the magazine because I used it to set up my own brand of selling booklets, T-shirts, videos, and I was doing that instead of just taking a check from him.
Yeah.
And that was, he was very impressed with that because he saw that I was more entrepreneurial in using the magazine to sell my products. I knew people were buying these magazines, then just say, here's $4,000 or $5,000. I didn't take the money. So that was one thing he saw. And what I saw is like, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew that bodybuilding was going to lead me to become an entrepreneur because I've always been an entrepreneur, selling myself either as a bodybuilder or, doing whatever I've done in life by selling my booklets, selling this, selling that. And that's what got me to start the brand. It was like when I got injured, which happened was I collapsed the disc, unfortunately, in my neck, caused me to retire in bodybuilding very early, in my early 30s. I said, what am I going to do now? I was very intrigued and believed in supplementation because I felt that food alone was not enough to get yourself to look great.
Yep.
And you needed, also supplements. So I just said, let me develop a line. People are telling me, you're never going to develop a line. You need millions of dollars. You're never going to do it. You don't have the knowledge. Blah, 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 blah. I just started studying it, came up with a couple products, started pushing them, started selling them, and just I blew up the brand to become, a brand that was in over 50 countries making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy. Believe me, I failed for the first year and a half, but I just kept doing it.
Yeah.
And, you just have to believe, but also have, like I said, the knowledge, the planning. You have to do the research. And that's how I just developed the brand. It's something I didn't know what I was going to do after bodybuilding. I said, what am I going to do with my life? But, I could have become a trainer, which is, it's great to be a trainer.
Yeah.
But I said I was so into the supplements, and I had great knowledge in supplements that I said, this is my place. I'm going to develop a product line. And that's how I developed Gaspari Nutrition.
Now, you talk a lot about how, like, people said that you weren't going to do this and that, and you failed, but you've always continuously gotten back up and developed this resiliency and self-belief. Where do you think, like, all of that came from before bodybuilding, or was that something that just kind of developed over time?
I come from an immigrant family. My dad came to America from Italy, and he came back, like, when Italy was very poor, and he came to the United States, and he always put it in my head. He goes, I came to America to give you a better life. He goes, if you don't take advantage of that, there's something wrong with you. He goes, because he came in his 40s, in his mid 40s here, and he goes, I'm going to come here for you to give you a better life. So I always had that in my head. And my dad was a hard worker. He was a mason, a bricklayer, and I remember just coming home from work, all covered with cement, and he just like busted his ass, and he goes, if you don't work hard, you're never going to get anything in life. Nothing's given to you.
Absolutely.
And that's something that got in my head. And I try to work with my dad, and I didn't like the construction work. To me, it was like, I'm not doing this. But I respected the hard work.
Yeah.
So I knew I needed to work hard. And I knew that I had to just keep going. And I don't know what gave me that attitude of no quit attitude. That's something that, my dad even said, I don't know where you got that from, but it's just like you never gave up in anything you did, and you push yourself. And that's something maybe, I don't know, I think I was blessed by God that gave me that attitude. And I still continue to this day. And it's funny, when we had 30 years of all the top winners, all the winners of the Arnold Classic, they asked Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's the most memorable winner? He goes, Rich Gaspari, because he's an animal. He's a guy, not because he's this ferocious animal that's going to beat people up, because he's a guy who will never give up.
Yeah.
I know that's what this man's about.
Yeah.
And he could be set back, but he's always going to come forward.
Yeah.
It's like the Terminator.
Exactly. Exactly. But I also realized, because Pete and I were actually watching your documentary on Amazon Prime, so check that out, you guys, if you haven't watched it yet. It's such a good story. But you watch these old videos of Rich training in the gym. There's some old pictures of him training with Lee Haney. And it's just like this animal, like, mentality. Like, I know that you guys kind of talk about, like, the old school versus, new school. But I feel like that never quit attitude, is developed, sharpened, if you will, like, through the training.
Well, there's a Bible quote, iron sharpens iron. And when Lee Haney saw me training, he saw that he said to, you would describe me as this animal that was frothing at the mouth. And he goes, I got to make this kid my training partner, because I want to win the Olympia, and I need someone who's going to train, hard, because I need a really good trainer. And he asked me, and it was an honor, because he was a pro, and he's like, would you be my training partner? I was like, damn, yes, I'll be your training partner. And I pushed him. He pushed me. But, I talked about iron sharpens iron. We just trained together to be the best. And that year he won his first Olympia, and I won the Nationals, and I won the Mr. Universe. And from that point, a year later, I'm going head to head, against him.
Against him every year.
But that's what was great about it. And he saw it in me. I never believed that I couldn't be something, because, when I was winning the local shows, I'm from Jersey, and I was winning all the shows in New Jersey, they said, oh, Rich, you're a big fish in a little pond. I said, well, I want to be a big fish in a big pond. Yeah. So I'm moving to California. And I told my parents, this is the positive attitude I had. I was a pre-med student at Rutgers University, and I was in 2.5 years. And I go to my mom and dad, I said, I'm going to quit college. I'm going to take a leave of absence. I'm going to move to California and be a bodybuilder. They were so upset with me. But I moved to California, and the first thing I did is I went to Venice Golds, because that was the gym to go to, and I was challenging anybody in that gym. I said, I'm taking over this gym. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm intimidated by these guys in Gold's in Venice. I'm taking over. And if you talk to anyone that knows about me, like you ask Jay Cutler or ask anyone, he says, the hardest training bodybuilder in Venice to this day. One of the hardest training was Rich Gaspari.
I believe
he was
it.
an animal
Yeah.
in Gold's Gym Venice. So I would challenge anybody.
Yeah.
You know, I had some incredible lifts. I was doing 780 in the squat. I was benching 520. I was repping 365 behind the neck presses. So it was also very formidable and really strong.
Yeah.
So anyone who wanted to train against me, I'm like,
let's go.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
I got respect right away in Gold's Gym Venice.
Yeah.
You know, so it was kind of cool, and you know.
Yeah.
But that's the attitude you have to have. And it's funny, I think about it. I was only 19 years old. It was this kid. I was this kid, and I think about some kids that are lost that are 19 years old, don't want to do it to their life. Yeah. It's like I knew this was my destiny.
Yeah.
And you know, if you are so sure of what you want to do, you'll do it.
Yeah.
And that's the way I believe.
Yeah, same thing for me. I mean, I was in the Navy for 7.5 years, and I found bodybuilding, you know, while I was stationed in San Diego. Met Pete, and I found that bodybuilding was, for me, it was just, I love the internal and external transformation of just the whole sport. I left my whole career in the Navy. I was actually going to go to med school as well, you know, to do this, because I love it. I love I love it.
And you got to go with, you know, my dad unfortunately passed away, and it was funny because, you remember, I quit school. I, you know, ended up, you know, becoming one of the best bodybuilders in the world.
Yes,
and I started my business, and, you know, my dad, before he died, he goes, you know, I'm really proud of you. It's just like there was nothing that was going to stop you.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's something I really feel emotional about, because he just said, you know, I'm really, really proud of that. I couldn't stop you for what you wanted to do. You just did what you felt was right that you were going to do, and you were successful. And for that, I'm really proud of you. And so I get emotional because it's something, you know, when your dad gives you affirmation, you know, or your mom to tell you they're proud of you, it's something really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. I mean, I'm just so amazed. I'm so grateful that you're here with me. Earlier we were training back today, and man, Rich trains hard still. I mean, he was challenging me. He was challenging Pete. We took the Super Pump Aggression today. Best pre-workout, honestly, I've ever taken. And it's such an honor, you know, to be with him today and to try his products. And yeah.
And I love doing this.
Yeah.
I love being, you know, with like people like yourself that are, you know, coming up into the sport. To me, it energizes me, because it's something you're motivated to be now this new champion.
Yeah.
And I look at you and I said, you know, I'm going to motivate this girl to make sure she's going to win.
Thank you.
You know,
and
I still, as you can see, I still have a very positive outlook.
Yes.
In everything I do.
Yeah.
And, you know, life, I'm just, guys out there, life is not easy. It's hard.
No, it's not.
And I've been through adversity in all different ways, personally, physically, and I just keep moving forward and having that positive, you know, just a positive attitude. And if you have that and believe in yourself, never let your brain like trick you, get rid of the white noise. You know, when people have too much time, that's when they start overthinking.
Yes. Yeah. Think about unnecessary stuff.
Yeah.
Distracted with other things.
Don't get negative, don't get depressed. And believe in yourself.
Yeah, I mean, in my journey, I really just hope to carry that legacy forward. Like Rich's hard training attitude, you know, his mentality towards his competing, you know, everything with the brand, you know, that's what I believe in too. And just to share that with you guys has been, you know, a blessing. And
listen, I carried the torch to motivate other people. I'm passing on the torch to you. So you need to get yourself to be a champion and motivate others.
Yes, sir.
And that's what you need to do.
Yes, sir. Well, you guys heard it from the GOAT, the best, the legend, Rich Gaspari. Thank you again for being here with me today.
It's always a pleasure.
And yeah, definitely check out his products. I'm going to be featuring a bunch more on my Instagram and TikTok. Don't forget to follow Rich if you're not already. Like, comment, and subscribe on this video. And we'll see you guys in the next one.